Hello and welcome. This is the F&O Show on BloombergQuint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I am Amar. Let's start by taking a look at the top headlines. Indian markets start the week on an optimistic note, taking cues from Asian peers. Open interest shoots up in Bharti Airtel and Vodafone-Idea after they hike prices on prepaid plans by as much as 30%. Bajaj Auto gains in trade after it sells more vehicles in November than anticipated. No such luck for Maruti Suzuki or Mahindra & Mahindra. Yes Bank fluctuates in trade as investors address the bidders who have shown interest in buying stake in the private lender. Well, let's start by taking a look at Indian markets. Well, it's been a very quiet opening, pardon me. And what we must remember is that while we've also had, well, some disappointing economic data, the GDP growth to be precise, over the weekend, the other aspect that is actually keeping the markets buoyant is the telecommunications sector, namely Bharti Airtel, as well as Reliance Industries, which is keeping the indices in check in terms of the fall. On the other hand, we are looking at some amount of weakness in the banking Nifty. It's flat. It's marginally in the red, so there isn't significant weakness, but well, red all the same. But let's talk about futures then, and let's see what's really happening in the Nifty Futures. So the December futures is currently off days highs, but it's still seeing a little bit of an accumulation. But we aren't really certain yet if this is towards the long or the short side. We'll figure that out, and I reckon that through the course of the day we will get some sort of a direction as to where we're heading. The Nifty Banking Index, which is marginally in the red right now, is looking at about 2.5% increase in open interest as well. Let's pull up the WIX because that will be an interesting factor to watch out for. Now, the thing about WIX is that it's actually been quite low of late, and it's in fact on Friday it went below the mark of 14. It is gaining 2%. Right now it's at 14. So it's going to give you an idea about how option premiums are panning out. Speaking of options, let's also take a look at your open interest distribution. Of course, 12,000 mark at this point in time is the only one that stands out, considering the accumulation of puts in 12,000. And if on the higher end, it is essentially the 12,500 call with the maximum open interest. But how are things panning out today? Where is that change taking place? And what we are seeing is that, it's writing around the 12,100 put, along with writing in the 12,000 put. But on the other hand, we're also seeing a little bit of an increase in OI for the 12,100 call as well as the 12,200 call. So there's a little bit of a battle going on there. And again, we'll have to keep an eye on how things shape up. But of course, the options are not the whole picture. But let's also move in and talk about all the stocks that are actually seeing an increase or a decrease in open interest. So a lot of activity there. So let's pull that list of all the stocks which are in focus. And of course, we have Vodafone-Idea, which is rising, along with Bharti Airtel and Bharti Infratel, which have made that list. There's a lot of change happening in Yes Bank, a lot of volatility coming through. And of course, this is on account of the fundraising. And while we did see a lot of weakness earlier in the morning, it's actually come back in the green right now. So it's completely recovered all the losses which it made earlier in the morning. We have PVR, which is also in focus on account of increase in open interest. Are we looking at any unwinding today? Let's pull that list up as well. Won't be too much. Dish TV, well, less than 2% declines, and Maruti Suzuki, well, honestly, nothing to talk about there. And it really hasn't reacted to the volumes for the month gone by either. So, well, that's as far as your stocks are concerned. And on that note, it's time to bring in our experts. But before that, here's a reminder, if you have any queries regarding futures and options, well, you can call us on 022-454-04141, or of course write to us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the AskBQ hashtag. Before I go ahead, let me also bring in a reminder that there are 3 stocks that we are going to discuss in today's day of trade. And well, of course, the ones which will be in focus is naturally the telecom space. We have fresh longs in Bharti Airtel on account of tariff hikes. Of course, the board has approved a $2 billion fundraise for Yes Bank, which is why it is seeing a lot of volatility today. And JSW Steel, UBS has upgraded the stock to buy. So and of course the steel companies are in focus, so we'll be talking about that as well. So besides the queries that you all have, you guys can also focus on this one. And on that note, let me bring in our experts for today. We have Navneet Daga of Yes Securities and Amar Singh of Angel Broking joining us on the show now. Good morning to both of you, and thanks for taking the time out. Navneet, I start with you. Where do we go from here? Markets are certainly looking tentative at this point in time this morning. What's your reading?
Well, good morning. We are coming out from a backdrop of a very clean run-up in the last couple of months or so. Okay, and we've got a good amount of good rolls overall. If I look at for the December series, the FIs are correct, basically unwinded some kind of a short positions in the system. But overall, it's looking likely that market is likely to take some pause. I expect some kind of an increase in volatility going ahead, just because we got a global events as well as domestic events lined up, and we are at that kind of a make or break kind of a levels on the markets as well. So there's a chances that we might see a mild profit booking happening, but it is something kind of a routine correction is likely to go through. So to my understanding, there's a chances that we end up in this particular band of 12,000 to 12,200 in the next coming week or so, until unless we see any major news flow coming up from the RBI policy event. So there's a chances that the bank nifty is likely to bit of some kind of an consolidation or kind of an underperformance in this week, and after second half we can see a pickup in the bank nifty coming in. So to my understanding, the strategy should be until unless we crosses about that 12,150 odd mark on the nifty, fresh long should be taken only about that level, or until unless we should break towards the level of 12,000 odd to make a fresh entry in the market.
Okay, so that's Navneet's view overall on the markets. And before I go to strategies, let me also go across to Amar and see what he is looking at and how he is thinking about these markets. Amar, good morning to you too. What's the way forward for you?
Yeah, I would say that looking at the indices, particularly the Nifty, to start with, is that we have had the start of the new series. And also we are seeing that on the call and put option, we've got call option somewhere around 12,500 levels and put around 12,000. So that where we're seeing a maximum OI built. So technically, I would say from a short-term perspective, Nifty seems to be witnessing some selling pressure. Some of the indicators are clearly indicating bearish divergence. However, the weekly charts and the long-term charts are in an uptrend. So effectively, it means that one needs to be cautious because there could be some selling pressure also. But lower dips should be used as a buying opportunity, because if you look at Nifty Futures, December Futures, somewhere around 12,000, 12,020 is an immediate level of support. Whereas on the upside, 12,180, 12,200 would be a level of resistance. But the trend is still in favor of the bulls, so dips should be used as buying opportunity, but one needs to be cautious because of the bearish divergence on the daily charts. Looking at Bank Nifty, I would say Bank Nifty continues to display greater strength as compared to Nifty, even on the short-term charts as well as the long-term charts.
Okay. All right. So, well, that's Amar's view. Being relatively cautious at this point in time. And of course, the support that he's given us for the Nifty is at around 12,020 and a resistance around 12,180. He's also looking at a support of around 31,700 on the Bank Nifty, and the resistance for the Bank Nifty at around 32,100. But caution is what he is suggesting. But I'm going to go across to Navneet on his Nifty Bank call. Now, he has a bear put spread. And before I move across to him and ask him about how he's employing this bear put spread, let me explain what it is. It's a spread which is achieved by purchasing a put option at a specific strike price while also selling the same number of puts with the same expiration rate at a lower strike price, and the maximum profit using this strategy is equal to the difference between the two strike prices minus the net cost of the options. So, Navneet, why don't you take us through the bear spread that you're employing on the Bank Nifty?
Okay, hi. Look, there is a correction. It's a bear put ratio spreads that I wanted to employ in the market, largely because overall I believe that we are in a lower rate regime in terms of VIX volatility. So there's a greater chances that we might see a sideways to continued mild negative buys in the market. So I'm buying an at the money put option of 32,000 for the weekly expiry of 5th of December on the Bank Nifty, and simultaneously selling a 31,600 puts for the twice the quantity, that is 2 lots, so 1:2, and getting an outflow of almost 35 to 40 points at this point of time. And I expect that if the market happens to break below that level of 32,000 and sustain below that, there's a chances that we move towards the 31,500 mark. That would be some kind of a maximum profit area for this strategy. However, since we are selling 2 lots on the lower side, one need to keep a strict stop loss, and the stop loss should be maintained on the futures levels. If we break below that break-even level of 31,200, that's where the drawdown on the strategy will start to happen. So I'll keep a strict watch on that levels of Bank Nifty Futures 31,200. And I expect that if we move towards the 31,500, there's a greater chances that we make the best in the strategy.
Okay, correction taken. So what Navneet is doing, he is buying 1 lot of the 32,000 put, and he's selling the 2 lots of the 31,600 puts. But moving on, let's also talk about stocks. Amar, I'm going to come to you on stocks that are looking interesting to you.
Yeah, the first one is Grasim. What we're seeing here in Grasim is that today it has opened with an up gap, and however, if you look at it technically on the short-term charts, the daily or the weekly charts, clearly shows that there is some bullish momentum in this stock, and the stock has been slowly and steadily, I would say, inching higher. And also in the longer-term time frames, what we've seen is that the stock is moving out from oversold territory. So there is a possibility that we could see further upside to the stock. So any pullback towards 800, 805 levels ideally can be used as a buying opportunity in Grasim with a stop loss of 778 and a target of 845 in the short term. And the second stock to look at is Tata Global Beverages. This is one stock which continues to be strong across various time frames. If you look at the trend continues to remain positive even from the short-term perspective. Daily trend, it witnessed some sort of upside resistance towards 308 levels or so, 308, 310. So that was a consolidation zone. It has taken out from that, and on the weekly as well as the monthly charts, it continues to be extremely strong. Even the daily momentum is there. So currently it's around 320 odd levels. So ideally around 320, 318 can be used as a buying opportunity with a stop loss of 313 and a target of 339 in the short term.
Okay, that's Amar's view on a handful of stocks. Navneet, what about you? What do you like today?
Look, we've been quite bullish on overall on the kind of metal stocks, and particularly steel companies. They have been forming a good base and been seeing a good amount of data in terms of overall aggregate roles. And to my understanding, I've been bullish on this counter like JSW Steel. We have recommended earlier also in continuation of that call. To my understanding, there's a chances that this stock might surprise on the upside, and we can see a levels of somewhere near to 282 to 285. The kind of an upward momentum it is showing, and the kind of an even in the falling market is showing some kind of resilience. So to my understanding, it's a good and good levels to enter into 262 to 264 range is a good entry price with a stop loss of 252. One can ride the upside momentum and play for the upside target of somewhere near to 285. And second call would be on one would be a short call. Motherson Sumi, and it is seen some kind of a double top kind of a pattern with a falling RSI is kind of showing some kind of a divergence on the negative side. So to my understanding, one can it's a high low risk reward call whereby one can keep a strict stop loss on the higher side of 136 and can initiate a short in the range of 131 to 132 at the current market price, and look for a downside target of 122 for the coming week.
All right. So, well, a handful of stocks are there looking interesting to both our experts. And from there on, let's talk about, well, some stocks which are buzzing today. And of course, right at the top of the list is the telecommunications sector. And let's start by perhaps addressing Bharti Airtel. Now, I know that some of you will suggest that why don't we talk about Vodafone-Idea? It is also in the futures and options space, and it's actually gaining a lot more than Bharti Airtel. But Vodafone-Idea has this knack of being a little more volatile as compared to Bharti Airtel, and that's the reason why I have chosen to speak about Bharti Airtel. But if our experts have an idea on either of these, well, they certainly can tell us and give us an idea on the same. But Amar, I'll come to you. How are both these stocks looking, or either of them for that matter? What's the way forward? What is your assessment on this?
Yeah, I would say that looking at Bharti Airtel, the trend definitely has been positive, extremely strong once it formed a base around 250 to 60 odd levels, and then I would say the speed at which the momentum at which the stock rallied, that was extremely sharp. And what we are seeing today is that today also the stock is up almost 7%. What we need to remember is that it made a high. If you look at the stock today, has made a high of 485.6, and in March 2018 the stock had made a high of 498, and so in December 2017 it had made a high of 519.20. So effectively what it means is that somewhere around 500 odd levels the stock has got very strong resistance. So one needs to be slightly cautious while entering long positions at these levels. But yes, on the downside, the stock definitely has found a very strong base around 440, 450 zone. So ideally, if the stock trades higher, one should look at booking profits around those levels, because till the time the stock does not breach the 500 mark consistently, I would say that there could be some selling pressure. And today's high is also going to be important, whether if it is breached during the day or whether it's breached in a couple of days, that would give a signal that yes, there is more steam left in this stock. But the trend definitely from a short term, intermediate, and the monthly trend is also continues to be firm. So definitely on dip should be buying opportunity, not at the current levels. 495, 500 is a very strong resistance zone for the stock.
Okay, all right, so that's Bharti Airtel for you. Let's talk about JSW Steel then. We have an upgrade, this morning from UBS with a buy, and, we've seen a hike in price targets as well. We've seen fresh longs. What's happened in JSW Steel in this case is that over the past few months, it's, hit levels of around 210 twice. Once in August, then again in October, and from there onwards it has actually advanced to 264. The question is, has the trend changed? And if the trend has changed, is there more momentum towards this trend on the higher end? So Navneet, my question is to you on JSW Steel. What would you do with this one? Would you initiate fresh longs even at this point in time?
Well, Agam, I have already initiated a call that we have already discussed JSW Steel. To my understanding, it's looking the overall trend for the overall metals as well as steel counters has changed. We have seen the stock forming a kind of a good bottom formation and then started to move up on the higher side, whether it's JSW Steel as well as Tata Steel also is looking good to us. So, but more convinced about JSW Steel that this counter has formed a good base, and there is a good chances that we might see a surprise on the upside towards a level of somewhere near to 285 as well. So, to my understanding, I'll still be gung-ho, and until the stock is not breaking below the 250 to 250 mark, there's a chances that we might see this upward trajectory and buying on dips continuing in this counter.
Okay, well, thanks. My other stock was Yes Bank, and of course, Amar, I'm going to come to you on Yes Bank. Well, there is a lot of volatility. It's been a tough stock to trade of late, and well, we know that, of course, for now there's some amount of positive news that the board is looking to raise some funds for now. But what we've also seen is that it has a very large range, considering it is a 66 rupees stock right now, and on the higher end it can go up to like as much as 72, 73, and on the lower end it can even go up to as much as 61, 62. Right now it's fairly in the middle of that range. It's currently at 68. That's where its spot is. Amar, what's the way forward? What would you do with Yes Bank right now?
Yeah, I would say if you ask me purely from a technical perspective, Yes Bank on the daily charts clearly is in a trade range which you very well put somewhere 60, 62 on the downside and 60, 70 somewhere on the upside. So it's clearly in the range. However, what we are seeing on the weekly charts is that the stock is now very strongly supported, coming around 60, 62 levels. So now that should act as a very crucial support zone for the stock. However, looking at the long-term charts, I'm talking about the monthly charts, they clearly show that there is still further weakness in the stock. And if the stock does manage to trade higher, there would be some selling pressure in the stock until we see some very positive news which has a significant material impact on the company's financials. Then only we could see a trend change. But technically, I would say monthly charts clearly show that the long-term trend is extremely bearish for the stock, so higher levels will be sold into. And yes, as you said, 58.60 now should act as a very strong support zone for the stock. I wouldn't touch the stock right now.
Okay, all right. From there on, we move on to a bunch of queries. We have a query from Puneet SV. He says he's bought Colgate Palmolive futures at 1471. Please give your view. I will take Colgate Palmolive up with Navneet, but can we also take a look at how Colgate Palmolive has done off late? Now, it has gained steadily since its earnings in the second quarter, and after that, it has moved. And okay, so this is, of course, your 1 month view. What about the 3 month view? And that would give you a better idea. There you have it. That's what we're seeing. That's what we're talking about. So it's currently at 1458, but that's its spot price. Navneet, the futures has been bought at 1471. What would your advice to Puneet be?
Look, particularly I'll come across with the consumer space, and overall we got a bit negative on the consumer space, and it's looking likely that the larger rally or the larger trend has been already been played out, and it's looking likely that some kind of a top formation has already been made in the likes of HUL, Colgate, Asians as well. So to my understanding, every rise you should be used to exit this kind of a stock. However, since you already entered into that, one just need to maintain a strict stop loss on the lower side. When it started to close below that 1440 odd mark, this stock looks more vulnerable to the downside. To my understanding, one can keep a strict stop loss at that level, and if it started to move again back towards that 1500 mark, look to exit it. Overall, it's looking likely that topish formation is started to happen in this space, and one need to be cautious in that one.
Okay, and our next query is on IDFC. We have, oh, actually it's not, it's been changed. We have a question from Arpit Maheshwari, and he says that he wants to buy the GMR Infra 20 put option. What's the way forward here? Can it be bought? He wants to buy the 20 put. Can we pull that option up and see where it is currently trending at, and take Amar's view on GMR Infra? If we can't, should at least pull up GMR Infra, the futures. That should give you a better idea as well. And of course, that's at around 21.45. It's not too far away from that particular option. Not too far away from going completely in the money. But let's take Amar's view. Amar, what's your view here? How will you see GMR Infra? Would the prospects of buying the 20 put excite you?
I would say that personally I don't track this counter, but as you asked this question, looking at GMR Infra from a short-term perspective, yes, there is bearish divergence on the charts, and also there is a double top formation. So clearly the upside seems to be limited for the stock. So the stock has a potential to correct towards 20 odd levels. So if one is interested, yes, one can look at buying put, but no one needs to remember that on the futures side, the high should not be breached. The recent high should not be breached.
All right. And a question from Nagaraj is TCS this month. What can be the targets? What can be the levels that we can watch out for? TCS is currently trending at 20, 30 odd. That's where its spot price is. Navneet, what's your view on TCS keeping the December futures in mind?
Look, we have seen again a very big amount of short build-up in overall IT sector in the last week or so, and we have seen the aggressive short rolls carrying forward to the next series. Overall, it's looking likely that it's again a sell on rise, being a heavyweight. It doesn't look like that it will be likely to breach below that 1950 odd mark that year very swiftly. So to my understanding, it would be a kind of a sideways trend will continue with the mild kind of an positive build-up happening between in the range of 1950 to 2000, likely to take a lot of support near to that range. So until unless not been started to trade below the 2000 mark, it doesn't look like it is falling off the cliff, but there's a chances that it will keep on going on sideways range with an very big upside resistance in the range of 2280 to 2080 to 2100 levels on the upside.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That's your view on TCS. We've run out of time on the show. thank both our experts, Amar and Navneet, for joining us and taking us through their views on the markets. Don't forget to log on to the futures and options pages on our website, BloombergQuint.com, should help you out in your trading. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O Show. But for more news and updates, stay tuned to BloombergQuint.